Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the Moto 360. This is an Android Wear watch priced at $250, still consistently selling out at this point, and that's because it is easily the best smartwatch ever made. It pairs with your Android device 4.3 or higher using the Android Wear app. You can see right here I have it connected. It works over Bluetooth. It allows you to manage how your device will work. In this case, again, it is the 360, and you can see there's a picture of it. Keep in mind, with Android Wear, your experience is going to be uniform no matter what manufacturer you buy a device from. The difference will be the hardware and the actual look and feel of the product itself. So it's very similar to what Google has brought to the smartphone world, allowing manufacturers to really make of the OS, if you will, what they want or what they design or deem, similar to how Samsung has created that TouchWiz ecosystem. But here they're not giving that permission. They're merely giving Android Wear as a platform to all of the manufacturers in order to create some level of consistency, so that basically the only difference is the actual product itself. Of course, that will shape experience. In this case, we have an LCD that is in a circular display. Originally it was supposed to be an OLED. I wish they had stuck with that. Unfortunately, they did not. It does have a heart rate monitor on board, as well as a step counter. It also has a ambient light sensor right here. That's part of the reason that when you look closely at the display, you'll see there is a black bar here, so you don't have the full circle, the full 360 that many wish was there. I really don't see that as a drawback in any way. Battery life was this device's biggest drawback. The good news is that is no longer a problem. Since the last update, battery life is now essentially a non-issue. You're looking at 2 days if ambient face time is off, essentially. And that's when the watch will stay on permanently in a dimmed state. If you turn that on, you're looking at easily a full day of use, and that's as a power user. I would say legitimately somewhere between 13 and 15 hours, and I've used this for quite a while. You can see the different dials here. You can bring that up just with a long touch on screen, and basically this is the only one that gives you the actual calendar. They're all nice. I think they all give, let me get rid of the step counter there. They all basically accommodate, I would say, different personalities and different preferences when it comes to what a watch should look like, from traditional to a little bit more modern, and there's a face for everyone, and there will only be more with time. That's another great thing. I mean, this is a smartwatch after all, and this is what the Android Wear platform is about. This is one of the only things, by the way, that is Motorola's own, what we're looking at now. This is one of the areas or arenas that manufacturers do get to do what they wish. But third-party applications will also accommodate even more. That should not have come up. There's a little bit of a bug. It interpreted that touch. I was trying to do a long touch to continue going through the faces here. And they're all nice. I don't think they're all for everyone. It's a matter of, again, what your personal use is. And this is the one I've been using. So a single tap, as you may have noticed, brings up voice recognition, and this is how you're going to basically interact with this device on a regular basis. Recognition has been a bit of an issue, but when it comes to the actual commands that the watch is expected to perform, like heart rate as well as step counting, then it generally does a very good job. But otherwise, it's been hit or miss, and this is an example of where I wish the hardware was a little bit better, or I should say, an example of where the hardware will shape your performance, as I was mentioning earlier. So in terms of getting to menus here, the traditional swipe down for a notification bar does sort of still do that. You get your battery life as well as date and the ability to mute the device. Now when I say mute, it doesn't have any actual audio, but it does vibrate. And this is why I love this device to a certain degree. It does, for me at least personally, make sure that I will never miss a call, an email, any sort of notification ever again, because as loud as I could ever make my phone, there's always going to be a time when I'm going to miss that call, email, text. Now that doesn't happen, but that's not all that this watch does, clearly. With the voice recognition, you can do a multitude of things, but accuracy, again, I wish was a little bit better. So let's talk about what you can do, and I'm going to just bring up the menu, and you can see we can take a note, we can set a reminder. This is pretty much a portal to the Google Now experience, if I had to put it in any short form. You can show your steps, your heart rate. You can send a text, you can send an email. Keep in mind, again, all of this is going to be done with the voice recognition, and that's why I reiterated several times the accuracy is suspect. And that's especially with me. If you have an accent greater than my own, is what I will say, it's going to be even more challenging. As much as I'd like to believe that Google is perfect, or anyone would like to believe that anything is, it simply is not. It's not going to perform the way your smartphone does. Let's put it that way. So beyond texting, you also have access to your calendar, your agenda, critical for something like this, again, a lifestyle device that is going to remind you of everything that Google now would remind you of, which is fantastic. Navigation, setting timers, stopwatch, alarms, everything that you could possibly need, at least, again, at a very early level. Keep in mind, this is the first wave. This is only going to improve and be advanced, both on the software and hardware side, but especially on the software side. Let's jump into settings. You can see there we can adjust the brightness. We are on the brightest level right now. If I take us down to a level 1, it's dim in person, but I don't think you will necessarily notice it on camera. And by the way, very fluid on all the menus. Some users were worried about that. Software updates have been fast and furious for good reason. Moto is very good about that. After all, Google did own them up until a little while ago. Ambient screen mode, I've mentioned that before. If you keep it on, it's going to permanently stay on, but in a very dimmed fashion. If you turn it off, then you're going to get legitimately just about 2 days of battery life. So it's really a matter of personal preference, I would say. Let's jump back to settings. We can power off the device, reset it, restart, all of those things. Change the watch face, and then about. Here we have traditional about menu for your hardware in the Android world, and battery life right there. And we can, of course, check for system updates. We are up to date. We can go ahead and dispose of that. A swipe to the right. That's generally how you are going to get in and out of menus here, much like a traditional task manager on an Android device. So let me go ahead and put the watch on, and also remind all of you about the Android Wear app, which I was going to touch on, because that is the back end, on your Android device for connecting with Bluetooth, where you're going to control what you have access to, and also expand on the applications and capabilities that the Moto 360 is capable of. So beyond the agenda and step counter, we have navigation. You can set timers like I just showed you. Basically everything that was just on the Moto 360's face. The difference is that all those options I mentioned before, you do have to go through voice. Clearly, I think that's going to change with time. Software will evolve, and as hardware also improves, software hopefully will accommodate it, and well, that should be a revolving door going both ways. But they have suggested apps as well that you can browse in terms of incorporating it into your Android Wear experience. But to give you an example, you can see right there it's dimmed, the watch right now. That's ambient is on, which before the last software update, you really couldn't even think about doing this. But with a quick movement of the wrist, you can see it immediately lights up. Again, very bright. That's why it may even appear a bit washed out here. And you easily have access. Now, if the screen was off, you could just tap the button on the side. You can see it does also dim it, bring it back up, or just do a single tap, brings up the voice recognition. And I'm going to show you that right now. So let's try it out. We'll see how well it does. How many steps have I taken today? Pretty good. Not the steps, though. And that's because I wasn't wearing the watch today, frankly. Limited use, limited steps. But what's nice about this is that it really will integrate into your lifestyle and let you know whether or not you're getting enough physical activity. So definitely a fitness-oriented element here, and it should be. Motorola's been doing this for a while. What's my heart rate? Got it there. We'll see how accurate. I've noticed that the heart rate monitor does fly around a little bit. 71, let's check it again. All right, so it seems pretty consistent there. I have seen it, go a little bit crazy occasionally, but pretty consistent right there. Now, when it comes to emails, things of that nature, and your reminders, very simple in terms of what it's going to actually bring up. You're not going to get incredible amounts of information. You can read emails on here, and essentially you just swipe up and get access to that email. And it does format fine. It works. Same applies to text messaging. All of your responses are done on the actual voice recognition interface. So it is really hit or miss, and it will always ask you if you're happy with the response, which is good, but that's about it. So it's definitely limited in those regards. And it's just something where I hope and I know we're going to see an improvement, but it's a very minor critique that I had to make all of you aware of right now. So it really is, that's why I keep calling it a Google Now window, notification window basically to your phone. Some will think that that's really unnecessary. For me, not only did I mention it prevents me from ever missing any sort of important notification, it also acts as a filter. No longer will I always look at my phone for calls or notifications that don't really require my attention at any given moment. Now I can use my own judgment to actually determine whether or not it's worth going to the phone. Another critical thing, even for, I would say, driving. Now, while I don't recommend, and it's illegal to text and drive or really use your phone in any manner, I think that anything that distracts you from driving probably shouldn't be going on while driving, considering you're taking your life as well as others into your hands in an unreasonable fashion, irresponsible to say the least. There's no question that if a text message comes in on a watch, at least you can see, I don't recommend reading the text message, but at least you can see who's trying to contact you. And then what this will allow you to do is then immediately, let's say, do a hands-free call to the person using voice activation. And I think that is a good way that this platform can be used to at least cut down on irresponsible use. And that's not to say that, again, anything is really responsible when you're driving. The only thing you should be focusing on is driving. But the fact that this relies on voice input certainly means that if you were to try to text and drive with something like this, at least you would be using your voice. Just I hope you would not take the liberty to try to actually look at and correct what the voice recognition actually encode or transcoded from your voice, because that's how you're going to end up hurting yourself and other people. So a lot to like here. No question right now, this is the best smartwatch or Android Wear device on the market. Battery life dramatically improved, but limited still clearly in what it can do. I mean, I've taken you through on watch and on phone what's out there. Third-party stuff is growing and will only do so. But the limitations of the OMAP 3 processor, in my opinion, not going with the AMOLED, those are things that weren't in favor of this device. But having that step counter and the heart rate, definitely nice to have. But what is great about this is that it does give you functionality no smartwatch has ever before. So even while I'm saying there's only so much you can do with it, it makes everything before it basically look like trash, in my opinion. And since battery life was the only thing holding it back, and now we've got that rectified, this is completely, without any hesitation, a recommendation coming from me. If you're in the market for this, if you're the type of person that sees no need to have basically a link to their smartphone on their wrist, then I don't know why you've made it this far through the video, frankly. But at any rate, a great device. I think it's worth the $250, especially if, like me, the two things I mentioned before, you're looking to accomplish, and really just easier access to all of your information. But things are only going to develop. This is basically the Nexus project for accessories now, and I see Google trying to do what they did with smartphones to smart wear, in a sense, which is Android Wear in this case. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.